Wait a minute,
Okay, I guess the first order of business is to the minutes of the previous annual meeting. Now these were just recently sent out for folks to take a look at that that we have emails for, and so basically looking to see who all was on that. Basically, probably does anyone need the minutes read?
No.
No.
Have them.
I hear a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay.
okay.
Who made the motion?
You want to mute because everything we're saying is interrupted.
If nobody made one, I'll make it.
Okay. Keith.
Someone else joined us by phone. Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, as far as the treasurer's report, that also was sent out as a spreadsheet to those who we had emails for. But just to hit the highlights, currently we have in our three accounts $112,290.65 at the end of, actually it's at the end of August. I see I have July, and I'm not sure on the checking and the money market account, those are 8/31. The foundation for the Carolinas account, where we had moved $50,000 from those, is life members, and so we do have $50,213 there. It had lost, and now it has made a comeback, so we are back beyond what we had in that account. That is as of 7/31. Foundation for the Carolinas basically keeps me a month behind. It takes them 20 some days to report on the previous month. So Foundation for the Carolinas handles a lot of more or less trust type accounts for individuals that may use it as a vehicle to go ahead and put their money in a particular tax year, and then it can be paid out later. They also handle a lot of funds for various nonprofit associations, such as the Rowan Museum. That is where we presently have the money that we were putting aside for the LAG building. And looking recently, and this is not the total, also has some monies for operational from the Old Stone House, about 20,000, I think, but it had 531,700. That's in Rowan Museum Old Stone House Fund. So we have about 500,000 better to deal with for the building project that we were looking at. But back to the Brown Fisher Association monies. To date, this year, we are still positive, but we do have a newsletter that is to come out the latter part of the year. So unless we get a lot of membership and donations in, we're probably going to run a negative for the year in the general account. but we do still have a cash balance in that account of $7,705. The total in the life membership account is $61,583, memorial $2,000, cemetery fund $1,500, reunion trust $10,000, $9,157 in the Fisher publications, and we have about $20,320 in the Old Stone House Improvement Fund. So financially, we're looking good. On the spreadsheet that was provided to those who we had emails for, you can see we're well ahead of where we were back in 2008. And so finances, I think, look fine. Does anyone have any questions? And if you ever have any questions, feel free to email me. That's Larry_Brown@hotmail.com, or give me a call, whatever you would like to do. Okay. A couple other folks have joined us by phone, maybe, and
If we could just get your name, if you'd speak up, those that have joined us, recognize you.
those that have joined, just shout out your name.
Oh, Walker.
And Boston.
Sandra
Lee Crowther.
Sandra Phillips.
Lee Shelton.
Scott Brown.
Burger. Dean Brown.
Okay.
Glenn Clifton.
Motion accept the treasurer's report.
Motion.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Hi, I'm Doug Robinson. I'm coordinator of the association. Welcome to everybody that's joined us. I'm sure Larry said that if he didn't. And this is sort of a first time for all of us using Zoom to communicate to the membership. So I apologize for the technical hiccups that we're going to have along the way. But my report is about the membership results. Our calendar year runs from January to December. So these results are as of December 2019. We had, in the year 2019, 2 new lifetime members. Number 172 was Judith Austin of Salisbury, and 174 was Kimberly Uhas of Arlington, Texas. We've seen a significant increase in life memberships over the last year, and I think that can be attributed to our online presence and the availability to do that electronically. Total lifetime members was 174 in 2019. Of those lifetime members, there were 46 folks who are inactive. I believe the majority of those have passed on. So we'll need to deduct that off the total at the bottom. Total sustaining members were 16. Total donor members, 36. Total annual members were 140 for a subtotal of 540. And then when you take off the inactive members, the 46, it's a final total of 494 members. The next thing I'll report is our annual membership drive. That begins on December 1st. I really encourage you to reach out to your relatives and get them to join. We've not really increased our membership as I'd like to see it increase over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, this is the second time in 3 years that we've had issues with our meeting. We had hurricane delay 2 years ago. Last year went fine, but this year we've got coronavirus delay. So, and our membership drive was delayed as a result of some of that. As I mentioned, the other thing that we've spent a lot of time on is our communications. Previously, we didn't even have a web present. The only way that you could get in touch with us was by sending something in writing to the coordinator. So we've really diligently worked on making a change to that. We now have a telephone number that's dedicated to ours. It's listed there at 704-762-1173. That's 704-762-1173, and that will ring to me. The website we have is brownfisher.org. We also have a presence on Facebook. We have a page on Facebook that folks are able to go on and comment and look at various pictures that people post. And we now have the ability to communicate directly to us via email, and that's at info@brownfisher.org.
Excuse me, Doug.
Yes.
Before we move on from membership, to the people out there that are new or meeting us that aren't part of the officers group that already know this, please read the easiest way to become a member and how much it costs.
Yeah,
Or
it's.
we can do that.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can do that a little later if you want
No,
to.
that's fine. That's a good point. I think we have a very reasonable membership structure. The entry-level membership, which is our annual membership, is $15. The next level is the donor level, which is $25. And then the next level is sustainer, which is $75, I believe. And then we do have a lifetime membership of $250. So after you pay the $250, there's no fees beyond that point. And as Larry mentioned, we use that income to cover some of the operating costs with our newsletter. There are costs involved with keeping the communications going, having a website, et cetera. So that's why it's really important that we increase the membership base. The other thing I'll mention is the lifetime members. There's a significant number of people who have been with us for a long time, but for whatever reason did not take the next step and get their children to become members, or better yet, to become lifetime members. So I'd really encourage folks to do that. It's a great gift idea. I know everybody, feel like me, you don't know what to give anybody anymore. So that's a great gift alternative if you're starting to think about Christmas. Thinking about gifts, under item D, one of the things we've added to our website is a shop page, a shop page, so that you can go in and purchase items that we have on hand to sell. So for instance, we had, over the last year, there were Fisher family genealogy books, and those have been packed up and stored in somebody's closet for years, and we uncovered those, and I think we've turned about 10 two-volume sets of those over the last year. We also have some Nathan Brown house prints to sell, and the Michael Brown Old Stone house prints are also out there that you could purchase, and those are newer. It's the newer 2016 version of the house. So if you were putting them side by side compared to the old one, the trees in the front of the house are no longer there. There's a cook stove that was built out of brick that's now in front of the house. So it's updated to reflect the current view of the house. We also have Old Stone house ornaments, and I think I don't know if you can see. There it is. The Old Stone house ornaments, these are, I think they've been out there for a long time. Folks have had these and handed them down, but we were able to locate 3 more boxes of these, and those are listed on the website. So if you act fast, you might be able to get those as a gift item. And it seems like those are out there for $25 a piece maybe, which includes shipping and handling. And the other item that we just added.
You're listed as 20, Doug.
20, thank you, Kat.
Yep.
The other item that we just recently listed is the Michael Brown coloring book. And it's also a storybook for the kids. I know that they, if I'm not mistaken, use these for some of the younger tour groups of kids that come through the Stonehouse. But these are now available online. You can order those. They were done in 1990, so that's a neat thing to give to your descendants and help them learn about their ancestry. I think that's it in terms of my report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Could you give those phone number and address, email address again, please?
Yeah, sure. The phone number is 704-762-1173. And the email address is info@brownfisher.org.
And the website?
Is www.brownfisher.org.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
No, it's backwards.
Okay, I guess the next order of business is old business, and perhaps the only old business that we have is sort of on hold. I indicated that the Foundation for the Carolinas, the money in the account for the LAG building has recovered to the extent that we now have the full principal that was donated by Juanita, and then the other donations that were given. And following, well, right now was not a good time to start a fundraiser to raise additional money. So the building and things have sort of been on hold for a period of time, but we should be ready to get started back again. Hopefully things are going to clear up by the spring, and we will be able to put out a plan for planned gifts or opportunities for gifts as far as dedication of particular areas and so forth for that. I don't recall any other old business that we might have.
You might tell this, what is the tentative timeline for having the thing actually completed?
It's a good question. We had originally hoped that we would move forward and have things done within 2 years, and then COVID sort of hit, and we just sort of taken a leave of absence, so to speak, as far as doing anything with it for a while. Because the next phase is to finish up the plans, and Todd Berg had worked on those, but I need to get back with him and finalize those plans, and then plan a fundraiser, and I think we should be ready for that for a kickoff. Hopefully in the spring. We're hoping that things as far as COVID will break and that we can have a really big spring fest. I guess that's the first weekend is Easter, so it may be somewhere around the 1st of April. We're hoping to have a big celebration for folks to be able to get out again if things work out okay, and that would be a good time to have a kickoff down at the Old Stone House. And so we'll be working on that in the next little while to have things ready to go. But we're pretty much the same as what we were previous. We have discussed the possibility of going ahead and beginning some landscaping as far as the perimeter, but we have not got started with that yet. And so we'll get back with that hopefully very soon. Did Stephen join us? Couldn't tell as far as phone conversations. Dean, actually, other than the fact that I'm at the museum, you should be doing this. And so I'll let you call for new business. I'll prompt you. How's that?
Okay. Make a motion, we move on to new business, part 7. And what would the new business be in this case?
We're just sort of floating along right now. I don't know of any new business unless someone else has something. And I
I'll
don't
second that motion.
know of any changes that we had published as far as the bylaws. It may be something that the board needs to take a look at, and it would be next year before we made any of those changes. And since we're not in person, I don't think there's any recognition. So I think you're down to the election of board members.
I would like to recognize some folks that joined us on distances apart.
Okay.
And we'd like to put this in our minutes too, if you
Right
folks,
here.
if you folks wouldn't mind, we'd like to put this in our minutes, but I have Braden Schallenberger, S. Delaney, and I didn't get your first name. Okay, Robert Landrum, Cindy Schrader, James Shealy, Ann Stoner Boston, Scott Brown, Haley Brown, Lee Shelton, B.D. Shepherd, and Sue Guffey. Did I leave anybody out?
Keith Wolf.
Keith, yeah, we got you with the membership, the board.
Okay.
Louise Crowther.
Say, oh, Louise, thank you. I'll put you down.
Louise.
Hi.
All righty. Well, I was just going to say, although we can't technically recognize you for coming the longest distance, the person that called in from the longest distance would have to be Braden. He's joining us from Washington State. So this is, I guess this is your first time joining us, Braden, so welcome, and welcome to the rest of you too.
Thank you.
Okay, then Dean, I guess you're ready for the report on the election of board members for the 2024 term. Do you have those?
I guess we need to hear from the nominating committee then about what they did.
Okay, and I think the slate that is there is Ken Clifton, Rod Kessler, and Robert Shepard.
Okay, do they have any comments?
They've all agreed to serve.
Okay.
And then whether or not there's any nominations from the floor.
I'm going to give about another 10 seconds, and then if there's no nominations from the floor, I move we accept the slate as presented.
How many people do you need?
There are 3 board members every year, and they serve 4-year terms.
I nominate Scott Brown if he'll accept.
That's not speaking up.
Scott?
I have a feeling your son may not be interested in Lee.
Sorry, I'm not able to do it. I've got way too much on my plate right now. Way too much travel.
Okay, thank you, Scott. And
Sorry.
since we had you on the phone, for you folks who may be interested, Scott did just finish, well, not just, but last year Scott traveled to Germany, and the stories he can tell about.
Doug, we could hear you better if you were over there where
Yeah.
Larry is.
Yes, I'm sorry. Last time we had it arranged differently. I was just going to say, Scott Brown visited Germany to Michael's hometown last year, and so there's some stories I'm sure he can tell, and maybe we'll have an opportunity for that later on. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, happy to share stories and happy to contribute where I can on getting some things together around that. I'm just not able to accept another committee position at this point.
We appreciate that, and we'll keep it in mind for the future. And Mike can get with Aaron sometime and share some things. Scott, you and Aaron have talked. Great.
Maybe they could put something
Yeah,
in the
we have-
newsletter about the trip. Would be nice. I'd love to learn. I'd love to know more about the birthplace of Michael Brown. I know his father was named Stephen Christian Braun.
Okay, we'll look for that in the future. Dean, I would move the approval of the nominating committee's recommendations.
I'll second the nomination.
All right. All in favor of everybody?
The second was from whom?
And
Ann.
Okay. Okay, the question is, do we accept the nominating committee?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, and then the next order is the nominating committee's recommendations to more or less continue with the present officers. Stephen Brown, President, Vice President Dean Brown, Secretary Paul Walker. And I guess the question, Dean, if there's any nominations from the floor.
Are there any nominations from the floor? I don't hear any, so motion to approve of the slate as presented.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Think the slate has been presented and accepted. So Stephen will be the president, I'll be the vice president, Paul Walker will be the secretary according to the election. Are there any other motions or information we need to present at this time?
Okay, Aaron does have a presentation following this meeting. And of course, the sheet that I have, we're down at the bottom, Mark.
Yes.
So everybody stay tuned that wants to, and Aaron will take over here in just a minute.
I will make a statement that of course I'm real close to Bob Peeler up at the top of Dunn's Mountain, and Dunn's Mountain is very well connected with the Old Stone House and Michael Brown, including his son. And I've been trying to get hold. I know that the bus going up to the top of the mountain is on hold right now, but I've been trying to get hold of Bob for about 2 to 3 weeks, and I've tried his emails and phone numbers, and I can't find out anything. And I didn't know if Norman had actually heard anything or not.
He's still up there. I was up there a week ago.
Okay. Well, if you happen to see him, tell him to get hold of me, because I've been trying all of his phone numbers. He's probably changed the numbers and email addresses.
He's been known to lose them.
Yeah. I even checked the obituaries and he wasn't in them, so I figured that was okay.
Are we ready?
And I'd like to point out that my Aunt Louise Crowther is on the phone, and she's probably the oldest member, but I won't say how old, so she doesn't shoot me. That's joined us joined us today. I'm proud of her.
Thank you.
How old is she? Oh, you said you weren't going to say. I'm sorry. You're going to embarrass her. but yeah.
Can I tell her?
In the minutes.
Yeah. Can I tell them?
Just turned 97.
Good for her.
97.
Wow.
Bravo.
Wonderful.
That's wonderful. Glad to have you here.
Thanks.
So are we?
Yeah, let me,
Nope.
let me just say one more thing. And the newsletter that's going to come out in the next month or so, we will be publishing the member roster and the donations from 2019, because that was when our calendar year ended. And then after 2021 kicks in, we'll publish them for 2020. So I just don't want folks to be confused about that, but thought I would mention that to everyone. And if you have any deaths of family members that you want us to recognize, if you'll just email that to the info at brownfisher.org, we'll be sure to make a note of that as well.
All right. I guess I get to take over now. And what I hope to do for this meeting was to have a video that actually did go back to Germany and talk to some of the people who live there. But most of the people who live there, the coronavirus restrictions have eased in Germany over the last few months. So they've been moving around a lot more than what we have. And they were on vacation and stuff like that. So I couldn't actually get much from Germany yet. I will, and whenever I do, I'll make it available from the museum's Facebook page, and Brown Fisher Association will probably share it from their Facebook page as well. But I did have a conversation the other day with Dr. Freeze at the Old Stone House, and we talked about the history of Germans, you know, why they came to North Carolina, what they did once they got here, the significance of the Old Stone House and stuff like that. So this is honestly just me and him sitting in the kitchen of the Old Stone House and just talking like we normally would on a normal day. And I just recorded it. So for those. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Aaron Kepley, the director of the Roe Museum, and I guess the key holder of the Old Stone House. So I'm going to go ahead and do this share screen thing here. Let's see. Share.
All right.
Got it.
See. Got it.
Got it.
Got
Looks
it.
good.
Chaos. All right. And I'm going to hit play. Oh, we can't hear it, can we? Can you guys hear it?
No.
No audio.
No.
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 No, nothing's muted. Fun. Let's see. Getting audio there. Sorry about this. Just a second. Let me try to figure out.
Fireplace looks nice.
It looks very nice.
Let's see. It's not muted.
Oh, Aaron's doing that. I found a picture of myself and my sister when we were toddlers in front of the fireplace amongst some of my grandmother's stuff recently. So it's neat looking and seeing where we were sitting in front of.
And I'll also, since we've got some dead time while he's doing that, I will mention that we have been looking into some sort of genealogy program that we can make available to the public. We're looking at various vendors and trying to see what would be most reasonable and easiest to access, et cetera. because one of the services we do hope to provide on a better basis going forward is help with genealogy and information. So, he's got his sound.
There we go. Yeah. Got 3 different devices here to do one thing. So, all right, here we go. Hopefully everything will go off without a hitch. You may need to turn up your volumes just a little bit if you don't already have them up. But here we go. We are here at the Old Stone House in the kitchen, and we thought we would add to the reunion a little bit by having a conversation about German and Rowan County history from the Old Stone House. So we're just going to kind of talk to each other.
I still can't hear with my volume all the way up.
No, not here either.
Me either.
That what I'll do is I will make sure to share it from the museum Facebook page while this is going on, because I don't think I can get it any louder for you guys. It's kind of as loud as I can get it here. So yeah.
It's also got a bad echo in it.
Well, that's part of being in the kitchen and not having a good microphone to use. I don't have the money for the good the good stuff. Dean, you can send me one. I'd appreciate it, man. So I'll hit play, and like I say, Kat, can you share it from the Brown Fisher page as well? Or
Absolutely, I'll be happy to.
All right, look for it in just a few minutes then.
Aaron, just a quick question. How much would a really good microphone be, since we might be doing stuff like this for a while and also for the future?
Let me look that up and I'll send it to you, okay?
What do you think the ballpark would be?
$200 to $300 probably.
I can make a motion that we go ahead and say make a committee of you to look into it, and also to go ahead and approve any reasonable amount that may be, and that way we can go ahead and get stuff done instead of waiting around till a few months till the next meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Well, yeah, that'll definitely help.
Okay.
So I'll just, for those of you who can hear it, I'll go ahead and hit play and let it go. And for those of you who can't, I will try to make it better available for you so that you'll be able to, okay?
Okay.
I tend to take that as a very accurate date, based upon particularly in Rowan County. So I think section 47 helps us understand a few things about why Jordan's in particular came here, and why it would be that year that they come. So let's start with that. That is, 47 had a generation and a half settled back in Pennsylvania. With that, Germans coming since called Germantown, and they had begun to come in later numbers in the early 1700s when they began to go away from the Palatinate and seek refuge in Pennsylvania, which practiced was a religious freedom as well as an economic freedom, and it's better as well as America. So Germans were there in Pennsylvania. In that here at the Stone House, we celebrate the style of this house because it imitates, very strongly imitates our memories and our ideas of what this being production. So Germans are doing that. And I think that they're doing quite well until about the 1730s. When you get to the third generation of people who are coming over from Germany, which interestingly, 1735 is when Michael and his family come over. And so Michael Frye, of course, fits our theory in terms of what and I think what had happened is simply come out of that by the 1740s, you had essentially a land rush into the Pennsylvania
But you couldn't go that far west because you faced two obstacles. The first was mountains and the second was river. Both, of course, were legal. And both, of course, were, in a sense, dangerous not only to your health, but to your body. And so one of the things we have to
Excuse me, to interrupt, is there anybody that actually hears this as a normal conversation? Because I don't.
No, but they said they're gonna put it on Facebook, right?
I just need to stop it.
Yes, it'll be shared there. I'm in the process of working on that now. I shared it this morning via Google Drive.
Well,
and
Kat, that one is not. Kat, that one's not a good one. I'm getting ready to share one again, and I can send it to you in Google Drive as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot to edit a part out of that one. So, but I've got this is a better one. But I guess we can, since this isn't really working like I thought it would. I'm sorry about that. We may just
So
say,
Aaron, just a note, Aaron, just a note, once you share the new one, if you'll put it in a zip file, that way Google Drive will treat it as a file and not a video, and it won't process forever.
Oh, okay.
That'll make it easier for me to get it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Yep. And Kat, you can also put this up on the Brown Fisher website too, if you have a place for it.
Yes, I'll make a place for it. Be happy to.
I'm working on getting everything on the museum Facebook page now. And yeah, it sounds like it's not working. I'm sorry about that, but we're going to try to make it available to you as soon as we can.
Since we're putting that on hold, is there any other business or anything that anybody needs to present?
I have a request. This is Catherine Clifton.
Yes.
So anyone who actually is here who is able to, who didn't get the email communications, if they'll visit the website and click on the button at the bottom that says add me to the mailing list, then that will really help me to send out new communication to people.
Thanks, Kat. That's the other thing that I didn't mention earlier is that we now have the ability to communicate directly via email to our membership. That's only as good as our list of people who have emails. So, and I think it's about, we have about a 40% of the folks that are members we have emails for. So if your family is our members, please stress to them the importance of getting their email address to us. We just recently started collecting this piece of data within the last 3 years, so it's not uncommon for us to be this far behind, but we'll be working to get there. We will hopefully, God willing, resume next year with our annual meeting, which is held in conjunction with German Fest at the Old Stone House. I don't know, does Treasurer Larry, do you have anything else to? That's all I have, so I'll turn it back over to you, Dean.
Okay, well, if nobody has anything else, I guess we make a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Okay. All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll see everybody as soon as we are able to see everybody.
Can I suggest that maybe next year we allow Zoom for people that don't want to travel, that's out of state, that can't really make the trip, make that available as an option as well as attending in person whenever that becomes available?
I can say we can work on it, but since we'll probably be outside having the meeting, we'll have to have somebody doing the video and moving the camera around, following whoever's on presenting at that particular time. But that should be no difficulty. So I accept your motion.
I got one question about the guy that's connecting from Washington, the furthest away. What line of family did you are you descended down from?
I'm from the Fisher family.
Uh-huh.
From, what am I from? I'm gonna figure, Rachel Blackwelder. It's a big, long tree, and I go in and look at it every once in a while and figure it out, and then I gotta go back and reread it. But Rachel Blackwelder is my line. My mother was a Seyfried from Salisbury. Homer Seyfried was my grandfather. And they are from Salisbury. And when I was a youngster, I remember I was there when I was 8. I've lived my whole life in Seattle, but 3 or 4 trips to Salisbury when I was younger. And I just recently joined. I find it quite interesting. So
We're glad to have you, and thank you
Yes.
for zooming in. It's good to see people
I
from
want
the
to speak
Pacific
up.
Northwest.
I think I'm actually further west. I'm from Portland.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
little further west
really?
than Seattle.
And what
Oh,
line?
yeah.
And what line are you descended down from?
Well, Michael Brown's brother and family migrated to eastern Tennessee and then to Arkansas, descendants to Arkansas, then to Colorado.
That's
to
amazing.
Oregon. So I'm a Brown.
we're sending our smoke your way, by the way. So.
I'm sending our smoke to you. Yeah.
Yeah, your smoke from Portland comes to Seattle, and now we're sending it all east. So
Yeah.
to go with the COVID, you get some smoke now.
Ironically, my daughter moved to Charlotte a couple of years ago. I'll be out there in 2 weeks.
Maybe next year you can arrange. Maybe next year you can arrange to come visit and join us as well for our annual meeting here.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Just so for our
I
records,
love the work you guys do.
is this the Guffies?
Also, we didn't take time to hear from Scott Brown about his trip to Germany.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take a little bit of time, Scott, you can talk to us about that.
Well, we were gonna try and do a write-up at some point. But briefly, I get a big echo. Is that better?
Yeah, that's good.
Less echo? Okay. Yeah, briefly, I had a layover in Frankfurt. So Aaron was kind enough to put me in touch with the Burgermeister in Rushberg. And so he showed me around Rushberg, and then we did a trip over to Baumholder and to talk to the pastor over there. And there was the pastor and the historian were very interested and had a lot of background. They had some articles from where somebody else had visited about 20 years ago. And yeah, we just had a really lovely sit down and chat, and I'm hoping to go back and visit. There's apparently some good walking trails over there. So I was hoping to go this summer, but that's obviously not going to happen. So maybe next summer, go back for a visit. And hoping that Aaron can come along with me, and we can make some more connections and drill down into more of the history and just enjoy it's very, very, very peaceful area.
You know, I think it's been about 25 years ago that trip was made. And I remember a lot of people made, but at that time I was working and I couldn't afford the trip. I was thinking maybe for people that are retired and now that hopefully one day we'll be able to fly again, maybe we could organize a group and make a trip to Germany as a clan to go over there and maybe take some trips to some churches and to some of the cemeteries. I've never been to Germany. I would love to go. So maybe.
Well, John Fisher did that about 35 years ago.
That's probably the one
in Europe
that I couldn't afford. I'm 57,
okay.
56, so I'd have been like 21 at that time. I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
I was broken trying to work at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be very interested in leading such a trip. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, but that's something that if the Brown Fisher Association wants to do that, I would help and use my connections that I've made with Rushberg. I can use my connections with the German embassy to make connections in Fransheim, which is where the Fishers are from. and also Niedermoor, which is where the Browns are. I believe Niedermoor is actually the Browns' hometown. Stephen Christian was living in Rushburg with his and his wife was from Rushburg, and that's where Michael, Jacob, and some of the daughters were born. So yeah, I would be very interested in leading that if the Brown Fisher Association ever wants to try to put something like that on again.
Isn't that area in Germany called Darmstadt? From what I can remember, a long time ago, they were discussing that Darmstadt, Germany, was the area that Michael was from. Is that like a county or
No,
a city?
That has actually been proven to be wrong. Darmstadt is a little farther east than where Rushburg is, and the original Brown book had Michael as coming from internet connection.
Darmstadt. That's the Roscoe Brown Fisher book, right?
Yeah, the Roscoe Brown Fisher book has him coming from there, but the Abraham and Jacob Brown book was written in the 80s, and it's much more updated, and it actually goes back and finds Stephen Christian Brown in the Rushburg records, baptizing Jacob and Michael, marrying Maria Eva Heyman, all that kind of stuff right there in 1730. So instead of Michael coming over here whenever he was, 18 years old, he actually came over whenever he was 5. And his brothers and sisters, they all got on the ship and came over here as a young family, basically. So
his parents stuck him on that ship? Because I've been thinking all these years he came over as like a 16, 17-year-old with Margarita on the boat as well. And when they got to United States, they kind of got married, and that's what they know. So now they're saying that he was put on a boat at 5?
No, his family migrated. Stephen.
So his dad too came to the United States?
Yes, and we know that because his dad actually dies in Rowan County in 1763.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
His mom's living here, and she continues living for a while. I don't think we have an exact death date on her. But, Stephen moves his family I say in the video that I made 1735, but that's a mistake. It's actually 1738. And Michael was 5 whenever they got on the boat. He was 6 the month after they got off the boat in Philadelphia.
So they stayed up in that area for 10 years and then migrated down to Rowan County, right? So was it 10 year?
A little longer than 10, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they migrate here. The first time Michael shows up in the records, I believe, is 1757. Or early it's January 1758, so he probably had to be here late 1756 or early 1757.
That's amazing. I have been telling people that, my children included, the little coloring book that you held up. I used to read that to my kids when they're little, and they're 20, 21 and 23 now. And now I'll have to go back and tell them that he came over as a 5-year-old.
Yeah, the coloring book is it's a coloring book. It's got some erroneous information.
I see that.
Yeah, including the attacks by Indians. That never happened.
There was no attacks to the Stonehouse by Indians, so no marks on the door done by tomahawks or anything like that.
No, that wasn't done by any of that.
But no, George Washington didn't run through the front door on a horse and go out the back either, right?
No, he didn't do that either. No. Those are all family stories. They've been around for a long time. I've traced some of them actually into the late 1800s, but I don't know the exact origin for all of them, including one where the house was being used as a prison for British or the British were imprisoning Americans.
What about tunnels underneath the house? Did you hear? I mean, because I've read all 3 of the early books saying that they had tunnels dug that you could escape from attacks, and you end up down by a creek or something. Just are there any tunnels that they found?
Well, the problem with a tunnel is you got to have a way to access it from a house, from inside the house, right? There are no trap doors inside the house where you could drop down. But interestingly, there is evidence of some type of, I don't want to say a tunnel, but maybe a pipe or something like that from the house to the creek that was found during ground penetrating radar thing that was done quite a few years ago. And it is they call it a tunnel whenever they talk about it, but they had no proof to call it a tunnel. I'll put it that way. But yeah, so also that means that Michael's tombstone is actually wrong. The one the Brown Fisher put up in the early 1980s, his tombstone is actually mistaken.
So they have his birth date is wrong, right?
Yes, they do.
But not his death date.
No, his death date is right, but
Okay.
his birth date is wrong. He like I said, he was actually like 74 whenever he died instead of 84.
Really? Because I know he had like 13 children.
Yes. And
and
his
so-
last child, Susanna, was born, or no, not Susanna. Oh man.
It was with his third and last wife, I think.
Yeah, Eleanor was his last wife. Yeah, Eleanor was his last wife. Her name started with an S. I'm sorry, just something Clementine Brown.
Oh yeah, I think it was Clementine was the daughter or something like that. From what I read.
She was born the month before Michael died. Michael died November 27th, 1807.
And he was how old when he died?
He was about 74.
74.
About 74 and not 80 something.
Nope.
Wow.
Yep. Because whenever we figured out that the right Michael Brown, that pushes everything back a little bit. Now, the Michael Brown that we do have on the tombstone down there, he actually lived in Virginia and was a cousin to the Michael Brown that we have here. And Betty Dan Spencer, who, was president of the association and long time, she has found some, I guess, circumstantial evidence that Michael Brown sent the printing press to our Michael Brown in Salisbury.
And they were cousins?
Yeah, they were cousins.
So two brothers, kind of, I guess. So whenever they came over as a family, with Michael Brown, our ancestor being 5, how many other siblings were with them?
There were at least 3. I think it was 4 or 5. And they all got on the boat and came over together. And then once the family was here in Pennsylvania, they had more children. Abraham Brown was born in Pennsylvania. So if anybody here is descended from Abraham Brown, he was actually born in Pennsylvania.
So he's a brother of Michael.
Yes. Jacob Brown is the oldest brother of Michael. Then there's a daughter. Then you have Michael. Then there's another daughter. And I can't remember if another daughter was born in Germany or if she was born in Pennsylvania. And then you get to Abraham in Pennsylvania and 2 or 3 more as well.
They had like 9 children? I mean, pretty much?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Stephen had a very large family. And quite most of
Michael.
Oh, yes. Most of the male children of Stephen.
TV in those days.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Television. They didn't have television in those days.
Yeah.
And it was cold.
Yep. Most of Michael's siblings moved to North Carolina, from what I could. At least his male siblings moved to North Carolina. We can find them in the records. The females, we have an issue finding once they get to Pennsylvania they get married, because then they kind of lose most of their identity through the records.
Since you know so much about the German side, do we have any connections to any royalty over in Europe since they were so interconnected with the Germans?
Well, the one, I mean, we do, but not in a way that makes us, royalty, I guess you would say.
I see.
Because people like Charlemagne had so many children with concubines and, women, that we probably do have some connection to royalty. But no, we have no actual royal blood. And it's very rare for Americans to actually have that, because if you were royalty, you more than likely stayed in Europe. You didn't come to the colonies unless you were trying to escape from something. And in the case of Michael, Jacob Fisher, Wendell Miller, Jacob Klutz, all those guys, they're just normal people. I do have some evidence of Stephen Brown, I believe, was a blacksmith in Germany. He probably had a fairly comfortable living, and so he was able to afford to come over. I've recently found some evidence that Wendell Miller, if any of you guys are Millers as well, he was actually probably a serf. His father was a serf, and he basically kicked out of his hometown and forced to come to the Americas. So, yeah, we're kind of from the middle class and downward, I guess you could say, not the upper crust. Oh, I guess I'm losing some people. Well, I'm froze for some reason.
And White's Brown Fisher.
There we go. I lost y'all for a second. Sorry about that.
I was just going to say, Aaron just mentioned the Abraham Brown book. That is available electronically on our website, on brownfisher.org website. If you'll, the menu bar across the top has history, and one of the selection items underneath that is books. And then you'll have several books if you'll scroll down. The Abraham and Jacob Brown book is something that you can download electronically.
And that book is the book that you want to go to figure out your ancestry. The older Michael Brown books, they are incorrect, especially the original. It doesn't mention all of Michael's kids. It also leaves out the Michael's middle wife. So yeah, make sure if you're trying to do your ancestry, online or whatever, that your information lines up with what's in the Abraham Brown book, not what's in the Roscoe Brown or Roscoe Fisher Brown.
Roscoe Brown Fisher.
There we go. Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, or the
He was double.
Yes.
So, Aaron, this is Kat. It might be good to put together a brief addendum of or brief notes about known inaccuracies in those books, and we could also share that online with the books.
Yes, I believe I was supposed to have already done that. Got distracted. Yes.
You're the one who knows it. I'll put it there when you send it.
All right.
You know, that first book I think was written in the 1920s, right? The original book. I don't know if Roscoe was the first.
Yes, Richard.
I have three books. I have a small one, kind of brown cover, and then a bigger one that's got the old stone house on. I think that's the Roscoe Brown Fisher book.
Yep.
I think there's only two.
Yeah, there's only two.
There's only two, and that was written in the 1920s, right?
Yes. The Richard Brown book was written in 1921.
And then the last one has got an insert with Kay Brown Fisher. She wrote in it, and that was the one that was come out in the 50s, right?
The 70s, I believe it came
out.
The 70s. 475. Yeah.
With the old stone house on the front of it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So that one's incorrect too.
It relies heavily on the information from the first one, so it kind of continues the inaccuracies, I guess you could say, from the first one.
I see.
So yeah, and I guess the downside to it is we actually don't have a accurate genealogy of Michael, because those two books, well, we do within the association, but we don't have a good published one, I guess you would say, because those two books being erroneous, but that's what most people know. And I know whenever I get on and kick around on Ancestry occasionally, there's so many people who still run with those dates, with those people, and don't understand exactly how they are connected back to Michael.
Got another question for you, and this is concerning the X-rays that they were doing around the cemetery.
Okay.
On the outside of the wall.
Huh?
Did they ever determine if that's where they had buried some of their, I guess, slaves or indentured servants? Did they ever find out what was in those anomalies that they were X-raying around the wall of the family cemetery?
They didn't actually go outside of the cemetery walls whenever they did that, because they didn't know whenever they were doing the scan what was going to be up underneath. They just did the inside, and they discovered that the walls were built over graves. So what they assume is that the wall to the cemetery was added much later, and the headstones and things like that had either crumbled over time, or if they were wood, they rotted away, and I forget, there's I don't want to lie to you. There's 20 some graves inside of the walls, but they estimate with the way things look that there's probably just as many outside. And chances are they're probably family. They're probably
Family
not
members?
Yeah, they're probably not slaves. Slaves were probably buried somewhere else. They could have been very close, but there probably was some type of separation between the two.
And the reason why I'm asking, I'm in South Carolina, and I'm from the Michael David Solomon, Henry Maxwell, Nathan line.
Okay.
I'm seventh from Michael. And on the my great grandmother's side, I found where a cemetery here in South Carolina, where I had a great grandfather on a different side, but they had put a whole section of that cemetery as being blank and saying that's where they buried the slaves, but there was no tombs. It was just an honorary. So I was just wondering if that was a practice that people did, that they would bury, slaves outside of the cemetery, but not in the cemetery. And I found that to be interesting here in South Carolina, where I stumbled upon that.
For the most part, they would bury outside of the cemetery, family cemeteries. My best example of that with a German that's publicly available is if you go to Mar Mountain State Park, very near the town of Albemarle. Dr. Francis Crone lived there, and he has his family cemetery down the hill behind his house. And just beyond the family cemetery is a slave cemetery, and he actually bought markers and things like that for his slaves, so they're largely marked. And he was a German from Prussia.
From Prussia, so we've got Prussian ancestry too.
No. This is another individual who came later, but he was a German.
Oh, okay.
And I know where his slaves are buried, so I just wanted to give that as a.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yep. Any other questions? I think we're playing Stump the Chump now.
Can we go back to the relationship? How did the Brown Fisher Association, the two families,
yes, sir,
get together?
Okay.
As they are?
Yeah. The story that I've always heard is that there were two separate families meeting. You had the Brown family meeting and you had the Fisher family meeting. But they noticed that there was so much overlap between the two. Whenever you go to one family reunion, it was basically everybody from the other one. So they decided, why don't we put them together? I think the Browns started meeting around 1914, and the Fishers are about the same. And around 1925, they got tired of doing this back and forth, everybody being at two. So they decided to combine the two into one association. And I think one reason why the association has remained as strong as what it has is because the association kind of took it upon themselves to try to restore the old stone house. Once it was seen to be too great of an effort, they sold it to the Rowan Museum, but they continued to be kind of the caretakers, I guess you would say, for the old stone house. And so, that's one of the major purposes of the Brown Fisher Association, is to help the house. And being from Rowan County, if you're a Brown, you're automatically a Fisher. You're a Klutz, you're a Miller, you're any name. You open up the phone book in Eastern Rowan County, and you can find your cousin, basically, because Michael had 13 kids, or something like 13 kids, 11, something like that. All of his neighbors had about that many kids, and they all intermarried together. So often you have cousins marrying cousins all the time, and so it's just it's hard to find somebody that you're not related to in Eastern Rowan County if you come here.
Yeah.
And interestingly, if you go to Union County, Illinois, it is much the same way. Depending on how your family got out to where you're at, there was a big German migration from Rowan County to Union County, Illinois. And I've heard that if you go there and open up the phone book, it reads just like the Granite Quarry phone book, where the old stone house is.
Huh.
Yep.
Interesting.
How about the story about his second wife being Rosanna Fisher?
That is very we don't know what her last name was. If Betty Dan was here, she could give you a much better explanation. She signed her name one time, Rosanna F. Could be Fisher, could be Fesperman, could be Finkel, could be Finger, who knows? But that whenever they saw the Rosanna F, somebody at some point said, "Oh, it must be Fisher." But the only Rosanna Fisher that is accounted for at that time period is actually married to somebody else. So, it's not the Rosanna Fisher that somebody was thinking about, because she actually married somebody else during that same time period. That the Rosanna F was the second wife of Michael Brown. So they couldn't quite be the same person.
But Margarita was a Fisher, the first wife, right? Margarita, the first wife of Michael Brown, that she was a Fisher, right?
I don't know that we know Magritta's last name, actually. I don't know that I've seen that from a reputable source. I'll put it that way.
Really? So they don't know what her surname was? I mean,
we don't have a marriage certificate. So, without that, she's just Magritta Brown. We don't know what her surname is, because we don't have that marriage. And we don't know if she got married to Michael in Pennsylvania or if they got married here. We assume it probably happened in Pennsylvania, but very soon after they get married, Michael is here, and I think most of their children are born in Rowan County. I think Continental John, the oldest, I believe he lists his birthplace as being Rowan County, not Pennsylvania.
how many children's names are chiseled on top of the entrance of the Old Stone House? Like 4?
It depends on which. You see, there's so many stories about this. They may, what she's talking about is underneath an inscription in between the 2 windows above the door is Michael Brown, Magritta Brown on the top, and then up underneath are a series of
initials.
Yeah, letters. Actually, maybe might be the better thing. Some of them do line up with his sons. Like I remember a P being there for Peter. I don't think there's a J for John.
There's a D for David.
There is also a German phrase that is something like, "Thanks to Christ, my task is complete," or "I have completed my task." And in German, those letters perfectly correspond to that. And it wasn't something uncommon for a builder to sign his name. He and his wife sign their name, and then up underneath it, he puts this phrase saying, "Thanks to Christ, my task is complete," or with God's help, I have completed this task. I believe is the better translation. With God's help, I have completed this task.
So so now that it's a phrase what they're saying instead of just the occupants of the house at the time.
Yeah,
what I thought.
Not all the letters actually line up to children.
Okay.
So we can't actually say that it.
There's more stuff out of the first 2 books that's erroneous.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, and that's part of the fun, though. Working with the Brown family is my family too. So I've been working with it since I was in high school, pretty much. But it's a lot of fun trying to untangle these things, and it's not unique to the Browns. I mean, you look at the Millers, and it's the exact same there. They had the wrong Wendell Miller coming from Germany over here. He actually came as a young man with his family, as a young boy with his family. So his dad was here, came down to Rowan County with him. Very similar story to Michael, but where they lived in Germany was about 100 miles apart. So they didn't actually know each other.
Okay, one more thing about the grave of Now, the first 2 books are the ones that I've read, the one that was written in the 20s and the 70s. They said in that book that Michael Braun's father, Stephan, was buried over in Germany. Now, we know that he came to the United States with his family. Is his father buried in Germany? And what would be his name? And how far does that go back? Are we getting back into like the 16 and 1500s at that point?
Stephen was born right around 1700. His dad's name was Jacob, and he was born in the 1680s. Before that, there's a break in the record in Niedermoor, the town they were from, and for that we can thank the French because they came in and they burned the town and burned up the records. So we can go back to about 1680 currently with the Browns to Jacob, who the oldest son of Stephen was named after his grandpa. You know.
So did they have a marker for that Brown over in Germany, or have they been able to locate a grave?
The way Germany does things in a cemetery is very different from the way we do things. You actually rent a space in the cemetery. After a certain amount of time, they give a casket that degrades and all that kind of stuff, and your body degrades. And after a certain amount of time, they reuse that spot.
They do that in other countries.
Yeah. So Germany, like when I went to Frauenheim back in 2013, I went to the Fisher cemetery, like where the Fishers are buried, and there were Fishers there, but I noticed that most of them were from the 1900s. You know, like there was a couple Fishers who had iron crosses and died in 1943 and 1944. So you know, there were Browns and Fishers over there fighting Browns and Fishers during World War I and World War II. Yep. But those were typically the older stones that I could find would be from that period in the Fisher family cemetery. I haven't been to Niedermoor and I haven't been to Rushburg, and I don't think Scott had any time to go to the family cemeteries while he was over there. So that was something I was going to do, but
is there, like, I know there's a lot of, I'm sure there's tons of Browns over there, but so you said you found a Fisher cemetery. Now I'm sure there's more than one. Did you go to like a Brown cemetery over there in Germany as well, or
at the time I was over there, I only had a few days, and I only knew where Jacob Fisher was from. So I went to Frauenheim, which is very close to Mannheim, which is a major city in Germany that I was staying in. And so I was able to catch a train over to Frauenheim and stay there. And I largely knew about that because of Rhinelanders on the Yadkin, the book about Germans. It also has some inaccuracies, but it's pretty good. The pictures that are in Rhinelanders and the Yadkin were taken right before World War II, I believe, to be put in that book. And whenever I walked into the main square in the Fisher ancestral home, it was like those pictures were still right there. I took pictures from the same angle, from the same place. All they're missing is the hay wagon that was in front of the church at the time the original pictures were taken. It's really cool.
I'm so glad that you got to go and explore and indulge in our family. Like, it's just, I just find it so fascinating.
Well, I was supposed to go right after Scott. My trip was planned for the first week in April, basically, this year. And, you know, it got to March 17th and couldn't do anything anymore. So unfortunately, my trip got canceled right there before. And I was going to go to Rushburg and try to go in depth with Brown family history and stuff like that while I was there. Because Scott kind of piggybacked off my contacts to do what he did. And I'm glad he was able to. I really am.
Are there notes from your trip that, like, others that want to go could follow and repeat? Or and I'm sorry, I missed your name. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Aaron Kepley. I'm the director of the Rowing Museum.
Ah, okay, great.
I don't have any notes from it, but it wouldn't be hard at all to make up like a itinerary, I guess you would say, for a Brown Fisher trip. Because it's a fairly easy drive. I don't know if Scott's still on here, but he left out from Frankfurt in a rental car. He got off the plane, got in a rental car, and he was able to drive right over into the Palatinate, to Rushburg and Niedermoor and back within, I think, a couple hours. So, it's a fairly easy trip to make. The distance between the Brown and the Fisher home place is, and I hate to just make a guess, but it's about 50 miles probably. So it would take, you would probably want to dedicate a day kind of in each place at least. And it's interesting. Franzheim is bigger than Rushburg. Rushburg is kind of like Granite Quarry, and there's a town beside of it that's kind of like it's Salisbury, you know. But as far as I can tell, Rushburg actually does not even have a hotel in it. So if you go to stay in Rushburg, you're going to be staying in a bed and breakfast, or you're going to be staying in a hotel in a neighboring town. Any other questions about that?
Well, I just want to clarify. So, basically, the Brown and Fishers, their connection comes after Michael Brown. So Michael Brown personally is not connected to the Fishers.
That is my current understanding. If you accept that Rosanna F. is not Rosanna Fisher, then yes, you are correct that there is the connection comes with his children. And that makes absolute sense because, you know, basically the Brown Fisher Association should have many other families attached to it, considering how interconnected we are with the German families in East Rowan.
Well, thank you for that clarification. That's great.
Yeah, no problem. But, you know, I guess the one thing that really brings us back to the old stone house, no matter who you are as a descendant, it is really the only colonial structure left representing Germans in East Rowan. So, you know, you have Lower Stone Church, you have Oregon Church, but they're built in the 1790s after we're, you know, a country. Michael Brown represents that early German coming into the county and, you know, eking out a living from the grassland that was here. And that's what my video would have showed, but I'm sorry I wasn't able to get that going for you guys.
Don't do that. Take it off.
So I got a question about the church building in Oregon. Another thing about the book, I guess being wrong, said that he was involved with the building of that church from what I read because of his deep faith, his deep Lutheran faith. So that's not true either, that Oregon came later?
So Oregon Church is not a Michael Brown church. Michael lays claim to 2 Lutheran churches in Rowan. He gave the land for a Lutheran church in Salisbury that would eventually become St. John's in 1768. He also gave the land and helped build Union Lutheran Church, which is on Bringle Ferry, in behind or north of his house, I guess you would say. Norman's probably over there yelling at me because that's not exactly north, but still, Union Lutheran Church is probably the one that is most connected with Michael Brown. But it was built out of pine logs originally and called Pine Church. And in the early 1800s, it becomes Union. And that is where the North Carolina Lutheran Synod is born in 1802 or something like that, or maybe a little bit later. So in that way, yes, Michael had a deep Lutheran faith, and he helped start 2 churches in the county here. But he personally did not go to Oregon, which makes sense because Oregon was quite a ways from his house. So what he did was he had Lutheran churches closer to him that he went to. Oregon was a little bit farther away. Looks like I might have lost connection again. Yep. Just so you know, my internet connection's going in and out. If you can hear me, I can't really hear you.
Pretty much contemporary granite house was built out of. So basically they got that granite out of Granite Quarry to build that church. And that's why I was thinking, when you're talking about something that's built out of stone, it's kind of hard to put date when you're doing a 30 to 50 year range, because stone lasts forever, right?
Well, yes, stone lasts forever, but Michael's stone did come from Granite Quarry because the house is there. It probably came from the American Quarry, which is only so many feet, through the woods off of his property line. But the stone for Organ and Lower Stone actually came out of granite plutons that are there in Rockwell on that backside. So that overall, you don't want to transport stone that far whenever you don't have trucks and a way to do it, right? So what they would do is they would cut the stone in the summertime, stack it onto sleds, wait for the ground to freeze, and then haul it with oxen, or pull the sleds with oxen through the frozen ground to where it was. So these houses had to be built close to a quarry because even with the oxen pulling it on the sled on frozen ground, you can't go that far. So Lower Stone is probably the farthest from a quarry, and also one of the biggest stone structures, which is very interesting. But it was built in 1795. Oregon was built in 1794, and of course the old stone house was built in 1766, so it's earlier. And it also shows more finishing than.
So the date 1766 is correct. It's 10 years prior to the signing of the Declaration of Independence, right? So that date is right, 1766.
As far as we know, because there is no document saying on this day I finished this house. We think that because there is a 1766 in that inscription underneath with all those letters. There's a 1766 on the right hand side. There's also a 1 and a 0 on the left hand side. So we assume that more than likely the house was completed in October of 1766.
Makes sense.
That is an assumption. That is not something that we absolutely know, and just making that clear. But there's no reason to go back on that because why else would you put 1766 on the house?
Exactly. So that's one thing out the book that's still
more than
the original. That holds true still.
More than likely, yes. Any other questions or anything?
I'd like to thank you for your information and your time.
Oh, no problem.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I would too. Very interesting.
Yes, thank you.
German history. I grew up right beside Lower Stone Church, and my family has went to Oregon and Lower Stone since they were built. And of course, I'm a Brown as well. So the German history has always been something that I love. And Doug wanted me to point out that the old stone house is, as far as I can tell, the oldest documented house still remaining in Western North Carolina. It is older than the buildings at Old Salem. Old Salem, they started building buildings in 1766, but they weren't constructed until 1767 and after. So we do have, our family can boast that we have the oldest house in Western North Carolina that is documented. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. That does it for me then. I'll count that as a presentation. And yeah, appreciate you.
Very good one.
Thank
as
you
well.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And please, I'm going to go back and trying to work to get this video up on Facebook. I was having some issues with posting and all that kind of stuff. Might be because I'm doing a large Zoom meeting at the same time. But please watch that video, and it may help you to kind of understand some broader points about the Germans and what they were doing while they were here. So I'm going to pass it back over to Larry, I guess.
While Larry's coming on, I just want to say hello to all my cousins.
Dean.
Well, it has been different, but I think it has been good. It has given some individuals an opportunity to join us from far away and learn some additional history. And we're so glad all of you decided to be with us today. And hopefully we'll see how the hotspot works, because Wi-Fi at the Old Stone House is not a strong point. But we'll see if we can find the hotspot there and be able to perhaps Zoom the meeting from there next year. And if not, we'll just record. We'll try recording and then posting. But appreciate all of you being with us, and we'll be in touch.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I am going to end the meeting if I figure out how.
Larry, don't forget to stop the recording.
Okay.
If someone actually started it.
Does that happen with the end?
Let's see.
No, you should stop the recording first.
Okay.
There you go.